Hello friends, I'm Rosa, welcome. So, bit late with this one. It's me, I'm the problem, it's fine. So, we're talking about the books that I read in both January and February today. I know that we're halfway through March as this video goes live, but like, just working at like snail pace over here, okay? Honestly, I've been wanting to record this for like a week, but I do have to mention this because you might hear some noise in the background, and that's because there's like work being done in an apartment close by, and they've been making so much noise over the past, like, I want to say at least like constant since Monday, but there's been more than that. So you might hear a little bit in the background. I can't do anything about it. I figured I've been waiting long enough. It's time to just sit down and record through it, but I just wanted to give a little bit of a heads up. So we're talking about 18 books today, and that means I gotta speed it up a little bit. I can't be super thorough with every single one because we're gonna be sitting here for a while either way. So I will make sure to leave links to the books in the description box down below if you want to go check them out. Also, some of these have been read with my book club, and there's a link to the book club in the pinned comment if you want to go check it out as well. And now I'm going to do my best as well to mention genres and stuff, but I tend to forget sometimes. We're going to start out with book clubs. Book clubs? Yes, book cups. I don't know what that is. Primary pick for, I think it was January. What the River Knows by Isabel Ibáñez, which is like YA fantasy, historical fiction with romance in it as well. I feel like for this one, I should probably tell you what it's about. Yes. We follow our lead girl, whose name I've forgotten, but she is back in, is it Argentina? Where her parents have left her because they continuously go on very, very long trips to Egypt. They do like research in artifacts and stuff like that, and they just don't want to bring her along for some reason. So she's been left back in Argentina once again by her parents when she receives a letter from one of them saying that, or from her uncle, I think it is actually, saying that they've gone missing. Because of course, they would not have sent her a letter saying they've gone missing. Or actually the letter says that they are no longer on the earth, if you get what I mean. And so she is, of course, heartbroken because they're her parents. But also, Inés, is that her name? It just came to me all of a sudden. She's a very curious and stubborn young woman. And she's like, I'm gonna go there and figure out what the heck happened because my parents can't just go missing like this. I feel like they're not, like, no. They can't just be gone. So she goes to do some research and bumps into her uncle as well, who is carrying secrets. And he has an assistant, sort of an assistant, who is a little bit off-putting, but also Inés is oddly drawn to him as well, and the two of them figure out various things. I feel like that was very vague, but yes. Oh, and also, her father, before he said bye-bye, he sent her like a couple of days or a week or something. He sent Inés a letter, a package with a ring in it, which now has like awakened some kind of magic that Inés has now. And so this might also be relevant to what they're doing. Like, she's relying on this like magic to find artifacts and stuff. And there's a lot going on. This was very cool. I will say the first, I think it was about like 100 pages or something, were very slow for me. This is the start of a series though, so I'm gonna cut it some slack because first books in especially trilogies or more tend to be very, very slow. So you just kind of have to like fight your way through the first, I want to say 80 pages or something, 80 to 100. But then it gets really, really good. I had issues stopping myself from just binging it once I got past that point. And it's on a bit of a cliffhanger as well, so if that's not your thing, just keep that in mind. But it was very, very good. I really liked it. I also very much adored that this took place in Egypt because Egypt is not a location that a lot of my books touch on, to be honest, but then again, I also read a lot of fantasy. So a lot of the places are fictional, but Egypt is definitely a bit of a different location, and I thought it was very interesting. I'm also very much into mythology, and there's talk about gods. There's also talk about like Cleopatra in it too, so it's all very, very interesting. But yeah, it was lovely. Can definitely recommend. I think I ended up giving like 4.5 or something like that. It doesn't say. I have my reading journal in front of me, but yes. I finished the trilogy in January as well that I've been loving since I started it. So I read As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, which is the third book in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. this is YA contemporary mystery thriller, and this was like, it turned the whole series upside down, but also it was the very nice, like, it still made sense. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it just wrapped it up very nicely. Without really going into detail what happens in this book, I just feel like a lot of the stuff that you learn about like true crime stuff, it makes sense. And it was so odd. I was like, this is not where I picture this going. But then it was so cool. Anyway, in this series we follow Pippa, who is a young girl who lives in a like smaller town-ish, and she is so into true crime. So she decides for one of her like summer projects or whatever it's called, that she wants to write hers on this murder that happened in her city, town, place. Because this girl went missing, or her body turned up or something, and everyone was like, this guy did it. And then he turned up dead in the forest close by where Pippa lives. Like, they have like a forest in that area, and his body was found in there. And so the whole case just went cold, and everyone was just like, yeah, well, we were right about it. He felt guilty, so he kind of offed himself or whatever. And she's like, I don't think he did it. I'm gonna figure out who did it. So she decides to do that. And what does she figure out when she takes that upon herself? She figures out a lot of things. She finds out a lot of things, and she gets threats sent to her. There's this person in the background trying to thwart her and or like ruin her assignment, and just trying to stop her from figuring out what's happened and stuff. And yes, and is that case relevant to this one? Maybe a little bit of it. I can't really remember, to be honest. I think all three books do tie together very nicely. Like, it's not like, because I think I've said before that the first book is its own case and you move on to another case in book 2, but stuff that happens in the first book is still relevant to book 2 and it's still relevant to book 3. Just as book 2 is definitely very relevant to this one, but still like new stuff included as well, if you get what I mean. So it was a nice like end to the series. I was just a bit like, what the heck? When I got to a certain point in it, like, I don't even. Also because the book is so thick compared to the others. Like, it's 600 pages or something like that. I'm picking it up, I was like, what am I going into with this one? Because I had no idea. Like, why is there so many pages in it? What are we doing? It makes sense. But it was very cool. It was very cool. Very good series, by the way. I can't remember what I gave that one, but I think it was like 4.5 or something like that. Then we have one that it was a secondary pick for the book club. I think either in December or January. I can't remember, but The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden, which is a YA fantasy. And this, I feel like, was not, I still can't really describe what it's about, to be honest. What is it about? Okay, we gotta talk a little bit about this one, because it's about a girl who grows up in like somewhere eastern, possibly Russia. Is there even a synopsis in this one? Nope, because it's a special edition. Is there an author's note so I know? Nope. I think it's supposed to be Russia, but it's like filled with mythology and stuff from Russian fairy tales and stuff like that. And so we follow this girl who grows up in a family that is exhaustingly misogynist. And I'm just so frustrated with the father. Like, at points throughout this book, I could not decide whether or not he was written like a good person or if he was one of the villains. And I just, because in my head, if you're a misogynist, you're automatically a villain. And I was really hoping that that's the route that they were going in. And I think he was considered one of the villains. But anyway, she is supposedly like a little bit of like a witch. It's a lot of it is like, seems very abstract, but not really. I just have a very hard time summarizing it, to be honest. It confused me a lot. Yes. I feel like I've read this and not really absorbed what I've read. Is that weird? How does that make any sense? Because it's like suddenly she's somewhere else and it's not a dream scenario either. But like in my head it's like she's dreaming, but she's not dreaming. It's just so abstract. Anyway, witches are obviously not very popular at this time in the area that she lives in. So they're trying to sell her off or like marry her off to someone who's supposed to keep her on a leash, and things are just not going the way that they're planning it, or the way they're planned, and there's this like fairy tale creature, almost like a fantastical mythical creature man or something, who's taken with her as well and who like protects her and stuff. And then there's a villain, and that's basically all I can say. I think it's supposed to read a little bit like, when I say supposed, this is fully on me for not getting it, because it's a very well-loved book. I just think maybe I wasn't paying as much attention to it while I was reading as I was supposed to. Possibly. Also one of the reasons because I was getting so angry at the misogyny. Like, I cannot, like, I was getting so angry. So it just kind of like took my focus away from like focusing on the story itself, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think it's supposed to feel a little bit like a fairy tale in some way. I just got very distracted because, my gosh, I hate her father so much, but at the same time they love him, and I'm like, no, he's marrying you off. Like, stop it. I hate it. Ugh, it hurts. So yeah, I had a little bit of a hard time with that one. I guess you could say. But I think I want to reread it at some point when I've gotten over this, like, I don't think I'll ever get over hating misogyny. But because now I know that he's not a good guy. It's just that you don't, like, you gotta remember, that's one thing when you read books, you gotta remember that the point of view that you're reading from is gonna be biased. Like, unreliable narrators are a thing. Their opinions on a person are gonna shine through the words in the book, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's correct. You know what I mean? And I was having a little bit of a meltdown over that. I'm not gonna lie. Anyway. Oh, let's talk about this one, because I think we're gonna talk about it. What is that? I think it's a 3.5, but I don't really know. So I read Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton, which is a dark romance. Very adult, very dark, graphic. A lot of things going on in that book that you wouldn't necessarily believe would belong in a romance. Have I talked about this before? I feel like I haven't. I feel like maybe I've just like slightly talked a little bit about it at some point, like hinted to it in another wrap-up that I've done. Because I've read some dark romances, and every time I talk about dark romances, I'm like, girls, we gotta remember that this is fiction. We cannot stand a person like Sade Meadows if he was a real life person. I do not care what heroic things he does in the book. When he does those things to the lead girl, like the other things to the lead girl, we can't, that in real life is a big no-no. So, no, okay? Yes. It's just that some of the things that happen in this book are like extra messed up. Like extra messed up, and I just wasn't really expecting that going into it. I don't really, like, my lines have been blurred a lot in regards to what I read. I don't get shocked that way, you know? I don't have any triggers. I'm very lucky that way. So I can just read whatever and be fine. But I'm genuinely like, why are people like, oh, he's my favorite book boyfriend? Like, I don't get it. Anyway. So, and this is not kink shaming either, by the way, but it's just, there might be some like, what does they call it? It's like dubious consent in it, where stuff happens and she hasn't said yes. She's quite clearly saying no, but then later on she's like, actually I kind of liked it in her thoughts. But I'm like, in the moment you said no. So him saying like, no, but you like it, doesn't actually make it okay. Like, how are we... Anyway, so I can read it and be entertained, but at the same time, like, be very aware that this is not okay in real life, if that makes sense. But essentially, Haunting Adeline is about our lead girl who moves into in my head, it's a Victorian house. All haunted houses are Victorian. That is just how it is. I don't make the rules. So I'm like, that's a Victorian house. She moved into a Victorian house. Most definitely. But I think it used to belong to her grandmother, or like it's passed down through her family at least. And while she's living there, she is being stalked by a guy. Or we know it's a man. It's a man. She also knows it's a man because he looks like a dude. But she's being stalked. She's also finding letters that I think it's actually her great-grandma. I don't think it's a grandma. I think it's a great-grandma who used to live there. She just continuously calls her her grandma, but like they just for some reason skipped a generation. But she's finding letters that she wrote because she too had a stalker back in the day. And she was also unalived by someone, and it wasn't really, they didn't really figure out who did it. And so while she's living there, she's trying to figure out who actually did that to her great-grandma while also dealing with the stalker guy. So her great-grandma was stalked, and she's being stalked. It's not the same dude, by the way. I just want to clarify. If you're planning on going into this one, definitely check up on triggers. There's stuff that surrounds or includes children as well, which is not necessarily something that a lot of people, from what I read when I read the reviews, I think a lot of people weren't necessarily aware of that going into it, and it is unfortunately a big thing for some people. They don't want to read about that for a variety of reasons, so I just wanted to let you know there is stuff, unfortunately, that includes children, not in pleasant situations, and a variety of other triggers as well. So just make sure to check up on triggers. I will not sit here and list them, but I'm pretty sure that if you go on Goodreads, someone will have listed them in one of their reviews. But yeah, I don't know. Dark romance is funny that way, because like, I think I've talked about this before, but like, all of the guys are psychopaths. They're psychotic. It's entertaining to read about. I just feel like it's very important to like not, like, just because I find it entertaining doesn't mean I am in any way okay with it, any of it in real life. You know what I mean? So I'm just shocked when a lot of people are like, oh my god, St. Meadows, the guy of my dreams. I'm like, what? How? I don't understand. But that's okay. We have different types. That's completely fine. We can like different kinds of people. It's okay. It's actually so nice. My camera is working again without interrupting and stuff. It's just so nice. I don't have to sit here and keep an eye on it all the time over in my viewfinder. Ugh. So I also read book 2 and 3 in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber. So The Ballad of Never After and A Curse for True Love. These are, did I just say love? Love. These are, I did not realize it was that much older. It's yellowed a little bit, you can tell. But anyway, these are YA fantasy with romance, and this one, amazing. Loved it. Ugh, everything. This one, just not as much, just want to say. But yes, I finished the trilogy. I'm so proud of myself. Just finishing so many series. I just finished 2, and then I started another one, and another one. It's fine, we're working on it, but anyway. So in these books, we follow Evangeline Fox, who is a girl who, in the first book, she was in love with a dude who suddenly decided that he wanted to marry her, not her sister. Is it her sister or cousin or something? And so Evangeline is heartbroken because she thought that they were for sure going to be together, and she doesn't understand why suddenly he wants to marry this other girl that is related to her. And so she decides to strike up a deal with one of the fates of this world, which is basically like not necessarily like a full-on god, but they are immortal humans that have some sort of power. So Jax is a fate, and he is Jax of Hearts, so he's like, his has to do with love and stuff like that. And she's like, I want this guy. Can I make sure that I have this guy? Or I want you to interrupt the wedding, is essentially what she says. And so he does, in a very Jax way. Unfortunately for Evangeline, things don't really go as planned. Like, you don't make a deal with Jax because you don't really know what the F he's gonna do. Anyway, so she goes up north. I don't really know, I can't remember how or why she's sent up there, but she goes up north. There's royalty included up there. There's a prophecy as well that Evangeline might be a part of, and more weddings and more love and more fates as well. And it's just a lovely like fairy tale vibe, I feel. This was so good. The pacing was so nice, like so much heartfeltness as well. I don't know how to phrase that, but it was just so good. I gave this a full-on 5. This though kind of ruined the trilogy just a little bit for me. I didn't love this. I kind of just at some points wanted it to be over, because how can you go from this to this? So it frustrated me a little bit that it's probably not as bad as it is in my head, but it's because this was so good that you just kind of want this to, if not be better, then be on par with this. And unfortunately, it's just not. There's also a trope in it that I am not necessarily the biggest fan of. Stephanie Garber did help a little bit by including points of view from another character in the book, so that you're not completely lost in this trope, if that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. I just really wanted them to be on par with each other, and it just didn't really end the way that... I mean, the ending was fine, but like the content of the book didn't go the way that I wanted it to. You get what I mean? So I can't remember if I gave it a 3 or a 3.5 or 4 or whatever, but it was just not as good as this one, unfortunately. Lovely trilogy still though. And then last book that I read in January, which means that we have so many books still to go through, because wow, am I slow. I read Saga Volume 3. This is a graphic novel, obviously you can probably tell. And it's just a fun, good time. We follow a little family. There are 2 parents and a little kid that are from opposing sides of a war, and they're not supposed to have been together, especially not have a kid together, but things have happened. It is what it is. So now they're on the run, and they run into a lot of different people while being on the run because people are searching for them, because why do they have a kid? Like, they're not supposed to have a kid. This could ruin everything that they have a kid. And so yeah, that's what it's about. It is a fun time, good time, a little bit graphic at times. So like, you know, just might be some nudity in there and stuff like that. There's a character who's constantly got like her entrails, is that what it's called? On the outside. So it's a little bit of, you know, stuff going on, but it's just a fun time. I really adore the series. I'm hoping that I can get Volume 4 sometime soon, but we'll see, because I just don't want it to like, I want to continue. And then we have a lot of books to go through from February. That's lovely. Let's actually continue with some more dark romances. So this was one that I finished. I started it in December, but I just felt like I wanted to finish it. So God of Pain, I think it's the sequel to God of Malice. Is that what it's called? God of Malice or something like that. And it's by Irina Kent. So I think a lot of her series are connected in some way. So I think some of the children from like, or children of some of the couples in her earlier books are actually the characters in this series. I'm not going to talk too much about God of Pain because I went completely, I just stopped reading it halfway through because it was, I don't know. And I basically out of stubbornness finished it. But it's dark. It's not BDSM that's in it. It's like, it's just pain, which is kind of in the title. The guy in this one is less psychotic than the guy in the first one though. He has trauma, unfortunately, but it's affecting him in a certain way. And the girl is from like a mob family or something like that. There might be some history, or not between the two, but like some of the characters that are relevant to this story. There might be some history. Oh, and also he's from one side of a conflict and she is from another side, and she's not supposed to date anybody because she's kind of promised off to someone else, or not necessarily specifically someone, but she has to marry like into a powerful family, which he's not from, or he is, but like not in their circles. It's hard to understand, but there's a conflict and they're on opposing sides, just like Saga, but I think Mafia instead, but without it being the Mafia. So I think story-wise, it went kind of stale in the middle a little bit, and I just got kind of tired of it, and that's why I stopped reading it. So I'm probably not going to continue the series. I'm not gonna lie, unless I at some point just kind of like out of the blue feel like continuing it. It just, I don't know, just kind of like I lost interest at some point. I can't explain why. It just happened. It is what it is. It was definitely also one of those books where, to me, I like smut in my books. I just need there to be a story as well. Plus, I very much enjoy tension, which has to, there was tension because the two of them have this kind of like weird back and forth vibe to them. However, I just stopped feeling it at some point because there was a payoff to the tension all the time. Essentially what I'm trying to say is there was too much smut compared to story, compared to building up of tension for me personally. And so I don't know. It didn't do it for me. So speaking of a lot of smut, I had like a week where unfortunately I have like pretty bad sleeping issues. So I go through phases where I just get like so tired that I don't function. I sometimes wake up with like vertigo and stuff, so I can't leave the bed until it's disappeared. And I had like 3 days or something where basically I wasn't really functioning. And so I decided to mostly stay in bed and read and make sure that I slept to the as best as I could, at least. And so on a whim I decided to pick up I think it's called Kate Madison series by Tate James, which is like, what are they called? Hate, Liar, Fake, and Kate. The paperback editions were just released or re-released. I'd actually been considering getting the first one, but I'm okay with not having bought it in the end. I raced through these 4 books. They're not thin books, by the way. And I raced through them in like 3 days. I think 2 of them I read in the same day. And I mean, like, when I read a lot in one day, I can read 400 pages. Like, that's a lot to me. During these days, one of them I read like 800. Like, I don't know how. But Hate, or the Kate Madison series, is about Kate, who she is from an influential family. She has like a rich dad or something, and he has tasked these 3 guys taking care of her because stuff that's actually I can't tell you because spoilers. But these 3 guys, she was sent to prison because of these 3 guys. And then when she came out, she went somewhere like South America or something for a little bit, and then I can't remember exactly where she went, so I'm just gonna go with South America. It probably wasn't, but anyway. And so when she came back home, she's like, she comes back home and opens the door to her house, and these 3 guys are standing there, and she's like, "Get the F out of here. Why are you here?" And they're like, we live here. Too bad. She has to live in the same house as these 3 guys. They're very intent on protecting her, as they say, because things are weird. There's a lot of, this is dark romance as well, by the way, reverse harem if you hadn't figured that one out. But there's a lot of like killing and murdering in this series. It was fun and entertaining. It just got to a point in, especially the 4th one, I got my ratings down here, which is where I'm looking down, by the way. But especially in the 4th one, where it was like every chapter had smut all of a sudden, and that's just too much. It's too much smut for me. It's like, this book is 600 pages, and there was smut almost every single chapter. It was a little bit too much. It was a bit more than a little bit too much for me, so I got very tired of it. Also because a lot of the time it just gets kind of repetitive. I don't know, it lost its build up a little bit, but like the series overall was pretty funny and entertaining. I didn't really mind it. Like, I thought it was actually okay. So I had a good time with it. The 4th book had just like a little bit too much smut. Smudge. Anyway, for my liking, unfortunately. So that was the thing. But it was cool. I will say Kate as a character might not necessarily be for everyone. Because, I don't know, she, I could see why some people would be a little bit annoyed with her, but I didn't mind it too much. Thought the guys were pretty funny as well. They each have like, this is a very typical thing for reverse harem, I think, but they each have like their own kind of trope personality, sort of. Like, one is super angry with her, one is like a golden retriever kind of guy, like that sort of thing. So I thought it was nice that they were all 3 kind of like very much their own person. They have their own interests and stuff. One is like a joker kind of, and yeah. So that was cool. But also difficult to talk about because like I don't really remember everything in detail because I read it during that bad part of my sleep cycle. So I'm like, what exactly did I read? Like, I don't really know. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, oh my gosh, we got 6 more books to go through. Jeez, how much did I read? I'm on track to be reading even more in March, which is absolutely crazy because one of them is like a 1,000-page book. That's fine. The book club's, I think, primary pick actually in February was My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine, which is I want to call it, So now the funny thing is, when is a romance a romantasy instead of a romance with fantasy or a fantasy with romance? I feel like it's very subjective. Like, there's not necessarily a fully defined description for that term, because I'm pretty sure some would call this romantasy. I think it's a romance that just has like fantasy elements to it, because we follow Cassie, who is an art teacher-ish. It's a thing. She has issues finding a job, but she's an artist and she has various like jobs that she goes to. So when I say art teachers, she doesn't work at a school, but I think she's at a museum or something, which is why I'm like ish. Yeah, but she is struggling to make ends meet. It's not easy being an artist, especially when you don't really do a lot of sales. And so when she comes across an ad on Craigslist or something like that for a very, very cheap room in a very upscale apartment, she's like, yes, I'll take it. Even if the listing is a little bit oddly worded and there's not like too much information on everything. The pictures look great, but everything else looks kind of like, it all looks expensive, but it also looks ancient. But like for that price, she basically can't turn it down. So she writes the person who listed it and is like, can I come by and see it? And so she goes, and it all looks exactly like she saw it in the pictures, but the guy renting the place, or like letting the place, I suppose it's called, dresses like he's from another century, talks like he's from another century, and there's just something weird about him. You can probably guess what it is. And so, can I even say that? Is that like, no. Okay, but there's a reason for why this dude, who's quite clearly a vampire, is asking like a more modern-minded person to come live with him before you get any ideas. No, it's not for his fridge. Okay. No. But yeah, I thought this was funny. I feel like, what was it that I said? Like sometimes it also tries to be a little bit too funny, but like overall I thought it was like a nice, airy, clean kind of funny vibe. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't like super heartfelt. It was just a nice, easy breezy rom-com with some fantasy elements to it. So my book is so mistreated, by the way. Not by me, because I would never do that to you, but someone bent the front cover of my book and it's been bothering me ever since. It was sent to me like this, but like how can you contact whoever I purchased this from and be like, excuse me, but you dented my front cover of my paperback. I need you to send me a new one. I feel like I can't do that. So, but yeah, it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool. I liked it. It's like, if you're looking for something like a little bit easy breezy, because you've been reading a lot of like heavier romances lately, My Roommate is a Vampire is quite funny. Okay, before we go into the last romances that I read, I also have one last fantasy, which is the end of a duology. I know. I read a whole 2 books in a series and I'm very proud of it. But I decided to go into Two Twisted Crowns, which is the sequel to One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. It's adult fantasy with romance, and it was very lovely. I was kind of nervous after reading One Dark Window because I loved it so much, and a lot of the love was for like the whole magic system is very original in this series, I think. So I was a little bit nervous now that everything was explained and part of the mystery was kind of solved, and also something that's gradually happening throughout One Dark Window. Cliffhanger stuff, and I was kind of worried that that was going to be super boring to read, or like annoying, or just, but no, it was really good. It was like really good. I won't say it's as good as One Dark Window, just like a tiny bit less, but still so good. One Dark Window was a 5-star for me. This is like a 4.5, so it isn't really very good book. I forgot to say what One Dark Window is about. That's good. Anyway, we follow Elspeth, who is living in this town, city, village, whatever, that is basically dealing with a curse. The forest there's this thing going on in the forest. When people enter, they lose their minds a little bit. They're cursed. And all people who are cursed are hunted down. And Elspeth happened to be touched by the curse when she was younger, and instead of it like visibly affecting her so she can still stay safe as long as she keeps it a secret, she's carrying around what she calls a nightmare. It's a voice in her head that is telling her a variety of things and making it a little bit difficult for her to basically live. Sometimes, but also it protects her at times. So like pros and cons, you know. It's also given her the ability to see these tarot cards that they have. So magic in this world are tied to tarot cards. If you have a tarot card and you use it, you gain the ability from the tarot card. Depending on which one it is, there's 12 different ones, and I'm not going to go too into detail about it, but it's pretty cool. Elspeth has the ability to see tarot cards that are on people when they're carrying them around by color, and so when a group of people decide to collect the entire deck of tarot cards because they want to lift the curse on this village, they find out pretty quickly that they can definitely use her for that because she's gonna be an asset to hunting these down. And there's this guy in this group as well who she comes by when he is dressed up as a highwayman, but he might actually have another title as well. But they're very drawn to each other as well. So there's some romance in there too. Definitely some romance in the sequel as well. And it was just very lovely. It was very nice. And it was nice getting into that universe as well. I really enjoyed being back in it. All my worries for the sequel were kind of like completely... It was all fine. It was all fine. There were no reason to be worried. So, very happy with how it turned out. And that means we got 3 books left. 3 romances though, and I'm pretty sure I read these during a readathon. That's not up on the channel yet because I'm behind on editing all my readathons. So I have like 3 saved on my computer now. Anywho, we're starting out with Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood, which I loved. I didn't read this edition. This is the Afterlife one. But the other one is like, as you can tell, it's right there below like 8 other books. So I was like, we're just gonna take this off the shelf, it's fine. In this one, we follow Elsie. I think her name's Elsie, and Jack. Elsie is, if her name is not Elsie, just whenever I say her name, insert her actual name. But she is a PhD student. She has graduated, but she's having a hard time finding a job. And also she's constantly being guided by her mentor to do these things, and she has like 1,000 different classes that are not paying very well either, and she's not loving it and stuff. So she basically, to make a living, fake dates. Like she's hired to fake date, not with benefits, but she gets hired to be like a fake girlfriend. So she's very good at like taking on personalities and stuff. And so the problem is that her favorite client has a brother whose name is Jack. And he is a little bit suspicious of Elsie because some things she's saying is not really adding up. And then to make it worse, when she is recommended for a position at this university or whatever it is, something with research. I don't fully know how the STEM world works, okay? It's a whole different... I will never get into that, so I don't fully know how it works. But she is basically offered, or not offered, there's a spot open. A very, like, it comes with good pay, a lot of benefits. It comes with a secure job for several years, and she can do her research. She's very good at doing research on crystals. Some kind of crystals or something like that. So she is recommended for it by the theoretical physicists, but there's another side, because there's also the experimental physicists, I think they're called, and they have their own. It's not him. It's not Jack. Oh, him. But they have their own, like, recommended person for this position who's been recommended by Jack. And so they bump into each other outside of her fake dating his brother, and things turn so awkward. And it's lovely to read about because he thinks she's a librarian. Like, what is she doing? And it's cool. I liked it a lot. Jack is like, if we want to talk about healthy book boyfriends, Jack's pretty high up on the list, I want to say. Like, the way that he communicates is amazing. He is the opposite of a miscommunication trope. That's Jack. The opposite of one. Like, he can tell when she is going a little bit, like when she goes on like a downward cycle in her head, and he's like, stop, let me just explain to you what's going on here. But not in like a rude way, but in more like a, this is what I think, so before you start thinking that I'm thinking something else, let me just explain it to you. It's amazing. I got so like, yes. The opposite of a miscommunication trope. and I love it. I love to see it. So yes, Jack is amazing. I love him to bits. Yep. And it was a lovely book. I like heartfelt moments as well. I still think The Love Hypothesis is my favorite out of the three, but I think this one is a close second. And then Love on the Brain is a little bit further down, but like a close second. I love this so much. Did I say it's romance? Yeah, I probably said that already. We have another one, another romance, but with some it's contemporary, but with some historical fiction in there. So I read The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros, in which we follow two couples, basically, or like not necessarily couples, but there's two couples in this book. We follow Scarlett, I think, in the past, as she is living during the Second World War, I think it was, and like how she met her husband. Yes, her husband. I think they get married. Yeah. And also how like things are and how they move around a lot, and it's a whole, he's a pilot, so like there's a lot going on. But also we follow Georgia in the now, and Georgia is the granddaughter of Scarlett. Scarlett is also in the now a very, very famous author who only just passed, by the way. But the thing is, Georgia has the manuscript of her last book that she has been given the go posthumously to publish, but she needs someone to finish it, to finish the book. So she's teamed up with this guy, an author of romance books. Or, no, of love stories, not romance books, because they don't have happy endings. It's a whole thing, okay? Romance books or romance is not the same as a love story. Romeo and Juliet, a love story. Not a romance, because it's a tragedy. The Song of Achilles, a love story. This is a romance. Happy ending romance. Okay, now that we got that cleared. So he writes love stories, not romances. And she is like, why are you teaming me up with him? My grandma only wrote romance. And it's a whole thing with the two of them. They have to figure it out while also kind of like doing research on Scarlett and her past and like her life, because the story is actually based off of Scarlett's actual life and a guy, her ex-husband. I say ex-husband because obviously this guy is not Georgia's great or grandpa? Or maybe this is the great-grandma. You know what? There's too many grandmothers in my books for these last 2 months. There's like 2. How am I supposed to keep track of them? It's fine. But anyway, so obviously the guy the pilot that I mentioned, Scarlett marrying, is not actually Georgia's grandpa. So something has happened, and like they have to figure out how to move on with the story, how to write it and everything, while they're also slowly getting closer. So they're both writing the story. You get chapters that are actually supposed to be like from the book that they're writing, while also in the now we get their romance story, which is kind of cool. I like going back and forth a lot. I also like there's a twist at some point. I like that. I hadn't even thought of it, so I was like, what? I think at some point I realized, and then it was like revealed in the chapter after. I was still like, I didn't see it coming. I mean, I did in the previous chapter, but still. It was lovely. It was very lovely. I think it was a 5-star for me, actually. I hope I didn't confuse you with the synopsis, but like it doesn't really, I don't think, the back doesn't, you know, some books it's just kind of abstract. When you, like the next one, Say You Swear, it's so abstract on the back. It's just like, for years I've dreamt of what college life could bring, and while some things changed, there was always one constant. It didn't matter how wild I allowed my imagination to run. My future was clear and he was it, until suddenly he wasn't. Now there's a new man in my life, one who isn't afraid to go after what he wants, and what he wants is me. It doesn't really completely encapsulate what this story is about. It's a little bit abstract, so I just want to give a little bit more details sometimes than there is in the synopsis without ruining the rest of the book for you. Also, by the way, still a romance, but I want to call this new adult instead of full-on adult. And this, oh my gosh, I looked at this and thought, what the heck is in this? Because it's still like 500 pages. Way too much for a readathon, might I just add. Okay? But I did it anyway. My rules for readathons are usually like 300 to 350 pages per book, because you don't want to be stuck on the same book for too long. And I just completely broke that rule for that readathon. I think most of Love Hypothesis I read after I ended the readathon, so, or I was out of my time frame or something. But in this book though, we follow our lead girl who has a group of friends. And they're basically like a little family. They're like family. They've been friends forever. They have this like house that they've been given by their parents where they go to every summer. So like, and it's their house. Like it's the children's house, not the parents. It's their house. And they're just all very, very close. It's 3 guys and 2 girls. Our lead girl has a twin brother and the rest are not related. And she has been crushing on one of the guys in this group for the longest time. So this summer that this takes place in, at first at least, she decides to actually do something about it. Certain things happen. Unfortunately, things do not go well, and she gets very sad as a consequence of this. Understandably so. But there also was another guy that she ran into one day while they were throwing like a party, barbecue thingy, who seemed very interested in her. Like he was drawn to her right away. And so when they go back to school, I think they start college or something. So it's a whole new place. He's actually at the school as well. And he's basically there for her while she's picking up the pieces and putting herself back together. And it's just very nice to follow. And then more stuff happens in it. He is the nicest. Like, yes. If we're talking healthy guys, Jack, and I forgot his name unfortunately. I haven't let Noah. Jack and Noah. Everyone deserves a Noah in their life. Like, he just, yes. Yep. The opposite of a miscommunication trope. He's like, I see that you're spiraling. Let me just explain what I meant. And he's very clear about what he wants from her as well, but he's also very clear that he's not going to do anything until she's ready. Like, he's not going to cross any lines until she crosses it. And so it's just, he seems very healthy, and I loved it so much. I think I ended up giving this 4.5. I will say at a certain point, it dragged on a little bit, but like that was it. Also, the ending of like the last like 20% of the book, I was frustrated, I was angry, I was sad, I was like, stop it. No, I can't, I literally cannot take anymore. It's very like up and down throughout the book. As soon as you think, oh, now things are going well, they just crash a little bit. Like just crash like a little bit. Like when you tip over on a bike without moving, you know, like that. Instead of like full on crash, you just fall on your bike, like that sort of. It just up and down all the time. And playing with my feelings, how rude. But anyway, I don't think I missed any books. I think I managed them all. This video is gonna be so long and I apologize, but also at the same time, what am I gonna do? I can't just be like, here's 18 books, let's talk 1 minute about each book. Like, you can't do that. Each book deserves its moment, and so I want to give a moment to each book. This is why I add chapters, by the way, so like you don't have to listen to me talk about every single one if there's one that you don't want to listen to or hear about. But anyway, that's the end of it. I'll see if I can be a little bit quicker with the March wrap-up once this month is over. I cannot promise that it also won't be a long video because I'm reading a whole lot this month and we have a lot to talk about when it's over. But I read a lot on Kindle and I still feel like this is a mountain of books. Don't tell me this is not a lot. It's a whole lot. But yeah, again, if you want to check out any of the books, I will make sure to leave links to them in the description box down below. There'll be links to both Amazon and Waterstones. And if you want to check out the book club, check it out through the pinned comment. There's always a link to it there. We are reading this month? What are we reading this month? Oh, A Fate Inked in Blood and also The Scarlet Alchemist. And then next month we are reading This Woven Kingdom and Spark of the Everflame, so I'm very excited for all 4 books. If you want to join, feel free to do so. But that is all I got for you guys today. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to give it a thumbs up if you did. And if you want to see more videos like this from me, definitely consider sticking around by clicking on the subscribe button. However, I'm going to leave you to it now. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye! Oh, you know.